Blend rolls, split rolls, and separate rollers can be useful tools in helping to develop a print. They can act either as a visual focal point in a print or a strategic supporting layer for the imagery, or as a technical aid in printing. As with all color inking, the printer should carefully consider the problems that may arise from having multiple colors on one plate. For example, is it more effective to use a split fountain to ink multiple areas of color on a single matrix? Or will separate matrices be more efficient? Will you need to use two sets of sponges so one color does not contaminate the other, such as a purple and yellow printed from one matrix? Or visually, blend rolls may be necessary in a print, but as technical aids, they may or may not be the best option. For a blend roll, begin by selecting a roller that is both wide enough and has a long enough rollout to cover your imagery on the matrix in one pass in the direction you'll need to roll to create the blend. For our purposes, we're going to say that blend rolls are always linear, though conical rollers have been employed to create circular blends. The blend will run parallel to the direction that you roll on the slab, perpendicular to the width of the roller itself. Ensure that your slab is likewise large enough to accommodate the width and the length of your roller. Use a strip of scrap paper to determine the placement of your colors for the blend using the image on the plate. The blending of the inks happens as the rollers move from side to side. Double the width of this side-to-side movement, the oscillation, to calculate the width of the blended area in the print. If you oscillate 1 inch, for example, the blended area should be 2 inches wide. Mark the paper in the center of your desired blend and note the width of the overall blend to determine your oscillation. Take the scrap of paper to the glass and transfer the ink marks using a Sharpie. Determine where the roller needs to be placed on the plate and mark the edges of the roller on the paper and the glass. Draw a horizontal line at the bottom of the slab and a perpendicular vertical line on one edge of the slab. This vertical line will mark the edge of your roller on the slab. Your oscillation is half the width of your total desired blend. Mark this width on your paper and glass and add your oscillation line all the way up the slab. Mark the full rollout of your roller as well. Make sure identical marks are noted on your paper template for later use. You can tape over the horizontal marks to make them easier to clean off later when you add ink to your blend roll. Modify all of your color inks so they're the same consistency. Stiffer inks will be easier to control in the blend, but looser inks may be necessary for large flat areas. Begin placing inks by drawing them horizontally across their respective areas, being sure to go right up to the line, but not beyond it. The adjacent color will likewise be drawn across its area, but slightly above the colors next to it to prevent contaminating the inks on your knives. Try to draw evenly from left to right, as you will not be able to smooth out your slab by changing your roller direction later. With the inks laid out correctly, begin carefully charging the roller in the ink by rolling through each ink and then rotating the roller slightly. Don't worry about rolling all the way up the slab yet until the roller is completely covered in ink. At this point, you should only be rolling along the closest vertical line, not your oscillation line. Once the roller is fully covered, begin rolling all the way up the slab, carefully following the line. You may find it helpful to carefully watch the line as you roll until you feel comfortable that you can follow the line without looking. When I begin rolling, I'm only looking at the line, not my roller or my ink. This helps me personally to follow the line more exactly. I can see in the sheen of the ink on the slab whether I'm following my line or not, and adjust accordingly as I roll. When the slab is completely covered, begin rolling on the oscillation line. This will begin to blend the inks. You can roll anywhere between the roller and the oscillation lines, but don't go beyond them or your colors will blend too much. When the ink is fully blended, go back to rolling just on the roller's line. You will continue to roll only on this line until you add more ink to the slab. Ensure that your ink slab is even by inspecting the roller, the slab, and newsprints as you pull them. You may need to add more ink or remove ink from portions of the slab or sections of a color to get an even slab. When removing ink from the slab, always scrape straight up to avoid contaminating color. If your blend starts to creep, you'll scrape up the blended area completely, add new ink in the proper areas, and roll out again. Once your ink is evenly distributed, roll at least 8 more times, rotating the roller each time. Finish by smoothing the slab without rotating the roller 2 more times. Then pick the roller straight up. This creates a smooth layer of ink over the entire surface of the roller with one single line on the bottom. To help place the roller accurately on the matrix, small guides can be scraped onto the surface, similar to registration marks marking where to place the edge of the roller. Place the other handle on the board between your matrix and the end of the press. Do not move the hand still on the roller, as it is helping you to retain the proper orientation of the roller with the lap mark straight down. To add ink while printing, add it exactly as you did to begin the slab. Add between the lines for that color as marked on the glass, which means that you will be dragging ink into blended areas. This will again be worked out when the roller is oscillated according to your lines. Split rolls, like separate rollers, are a technical aid in printing multiple colors on a single matrix. Although the roller is set up like a blend, the blended ink is hidden in the blank space between the imagery on the matrix. Inking with a split roll, or split fountain as it's also called, can be more efficient due to only needing to use one roller to ink multiple parts of the image. Split rolls can also introduce new problems, such as controlling the blend so as not revealed in the print, or over-inking or under-inking some areas as you try to keep the ink on the roller and slab under control, or alternatively awkward rolling patterns that may put undue strain on the printer. Setting up and using a split roll is identical to setting up and using a blend, but the oscillating of the roller can be eliminated. If the imagery on a matrix is separated by a large enough gap, separate rollers can be employed to ink up the matrix in multiple colors without revealing any of the blending of the inks. This is an efficient use of both materials and manpower and can speed up the printing process considerably. It allows for each ink to be modified independent of the other according to the needs of the imagery, and reduces possible scraping of the slab as inks blend together, such as in a split roll or blend roll.